Let's get some analysis now from Jamie Weir. I mean, Jamie, England fans made their feelings really clear there. Obviously, you watched the game as well. I mean, just how concerned should we all be with that performance?
Let's get the positives out of the way. As you've been saying, England are top of the group. They are unbeaten. And, you know, in tournament football, you kind of build into the tournament. So, well, that's the positives done. The performance was concerning, obviously. And I think, especially if you then watched Spain-Italy last night as well, and you just saw the difference in intensity. That Spanish team pressed so high up the pitch. Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal, these flying wingers, just really on the front foot, aggressive. Alvaro Morata playing his role as well. And Alvaro Morata isn't half the footballer Harry Kane is, but they all know their roles. They all play aggressive front foot football. And England have the attacking players to do that. But how infuriating, how frustrating was it yesterday just watching, at times, the Danish back four just playing the ball amongst themselves. The closest English player, be it Harry Kane or Jude Bellingham, was 15 yards away, and they were just letting them have the ball, not getting in their faces, no press at all. We'll be looking at the papers a little bit later on, and Jamie Carragher makes the point in the papers that he thinks that's down to fatigue, that it's not a tactic, that England are dropping off because they look exhausted. That's a concern in itself. But if it is a tactic, then obviously that is a concern because you're not playing to your strengths. And if we look at the average positions of the England team last night, these are all the players who started the game. So obviously Trent AlexanderArnold, slight caveat, he only played 54 minutes. But this is the average positions of the England players, and Harry Kane here basically hovering around the centre of the pitch most of the game, and Jude Bellingham alongside him, he's just slightly covered up there as well. But you know, you can see just how defensively they were playing, how they were dropping off Denmark the entire time. And this next graphic is really, really interesting. This was for the 15 minutes during which England led the game. So obviously one of the big criticisms of England under Gareth Southgate is they take the lead and then they just put the handbrake on. So for the 15 minutes they were leading the game, these are the average positions of the England players. I mean, look at that. Harry Kane basically playing left back in this one. Jude Bellingham sort of hovering around the edge of his own box. Bukayo Saka, the most advanced player on the pitch, and still, you know, well inside his own half. So what was going on for those 15 minutes, I do not know. But this is a big problem, and I think they need to somehow get the best out of their attacking player. There was so much talk going into the tournament that England's back four were the weakness, were the weak link. The back four have actually, by and large,
Mark
been
Gay
pretty
was
good.
great last night.
Mark Gay's been excellent in both games so far, and in particular deserves to be singled out for praise. But rather than trying to protect your weaknesses, surely you play to your strengths, and England's strengths are their front four. And when you look at those players, the players that play in the Premier League in particular, Phil Foden, Bukayo Saka, Declan Rice, Trent AlexanderArnold, they all play pressing football for their clubs. Why are we not doing it at an international level? The two guys that don't play in the Premier League, Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane, don't play that same sort of pressing football, but Harry Kane's an intelligent enough footballer that he can be educated to play that role. So I think that is the big thing that we need to address before the next game against Slovenia next week.
Does the Trent Alexander-Arnold position need to be addressed as well? Because you said a minute ago, he came off after 54 minutes. Conor Gallagher came on. Is this sort of experiment over now?
I would suspect so. I mean, Gareth Southgate was asked that straight after the game and gave a typically diplomatic Gareth Southgate kind of answer. He's been taken off both games so far against Serbia and again last night against Denmark. I don't think the experiment has worked at all. I understand the rationale for doing it. They want a creative midfielder in there, and you know, he is England's arguably most creative player when you see the role that he plays for Liverpool. But he's not a midfielder. And you can argue, yes, well, he kind of drifts into those positions for Liverpool, but he drifts into those positions. He starts games at right back. It's a much more physically demanding role in the midfield. Now, on the sheer basis of his stats, this doesn't actually look too bad. Bear in mind, he only played 54 minutes. He completed the seventh most amount of passes for England, and 4 of those were the back four, which are obviously little passes amongst themselves, so that's slightly caveated as well. Created the most long passes, 6 long passes completed, the most of any England player. 3 chances created, the most of any England player, which, you know, bearing in mind he was only on the pitch for 54 minutes is impressive. Didn't make a single tackle, which kind of tells you the role about playing in midfield. It does not come naturally to him playing in that position at all. And if you look at the passes that he played, he was spraying about. I mean, it looks sort of higgledy-piggledy, lots of colours, lots of sort of arrows everywhere. The blue ones are the chances that he created. I don't know what this chance, by the way, is, just before you ask me. I don't know what this pass inside his own half was. But, you know, he was playing the role that he was asked to do. So on the face of it, this doesn't look too bad. But by the eye test, it just wasn't working, was it? And you could see the difference in intensity when Conor Gallagher came on, a bit of a more natural box-to-box number 8. I don't think it's worked at all. And I think the midfield balance is a huge question mark now going into not just Slovenia, but the rest of the tournament.
And I suppose sticking with that midfield then, we were saying at the top of the show, there might be more questions than answers after last night. And one of the big kind of question marks, not even just in terms of the actual action, but Gareth Southgate after saying maybe we're still missing that kind of Calvin Phillips player. And some people on Twitter are like, hello, you have Adam Wharton in your squad. What are you doing?
Twitter exploded at this comment. We haven't replaced Calvin Phillips when you've got the likes of Kobbie Mainoo or Adam Wharton on your bench. Gareth Southgate, if we look at his sort of history in tournaments, and the midfields that he's gone with, he likes to find a midfield and then stick with it. So if we look at Gareth Southgate's record as England manager, going back to the Russia World Cup in 2018, I think we can look at the midfield combinations that he has used over that period of time. I'm hoping that's going to come up now as if by magic. Here we go. And
there we go.
There we go. So, 2018 in Russia, that top one there, Jordan Henderson, Dele Alli and Jesse Lingard was his preferred midfield. And once he'd settled on that was England's midfield throughout the knockout stages as well. Ruben Loftus-Cheek played in one of the group games, I think, against Panama. So that was another midfield combination that he used. That last one there's a bit of a caveat to that. Eric Dyer, Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Fabian Delph. They was in the 2 games against Belgium, which you could argue both were dead rubbers. So kind of disregard that one. But Henderson, Dele and Lingard was the one that he went with there. Euro 2020, arguably the most successful England have been under, well, not arguably, the most successful England have been under Gareth Southgate, stuck with Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips. That was the midfield 2 throughout. We remember how well those 2 played together throughout that entire tournament. Then in Qatar, it was Rice and Bellingham. Jordan Henderson came in, I think, for the final group game against Wales and then stayed in the team for the knockout stages as well. And actually, Jordan Henderson, that really did work, bringing him in to sort of anchor up that midfield. And then so far for Euro 2024, we've seen Declan Rice alongside Trent Alexander-Arnold. But I think this is now the big question mark. I mean, I remember saying people coming into these European Championships, you've got the best player in La Liga all season, Jude Bellingham. The best player in the Premier League all season, Phil Foden. The best player in the Bundesliga all season, Harry Kane, all on the same side. How can England not fail to be really impressive?
Yeah.
But the midfield balance, I think, is the big problem, because Declan Rice, if you look at the way he plays for Arsenal, he has been more of a sort of box-to-box, more advanced midfielder. And you've got either Jorginho or Thomas Partey alongside him doing all the sort of donkey work there, allowing him to play more advanced. Arsenal also invert their fullbacks, so Declan Rice has to kind of play further up the field. We know that Jude Bellingham is better in a sort of number 10 role. We know that Phil Foden is best in a 10 role though as well. So how can you incorporate all 3 of those guys into the same midfield? Or are you going to have to sacrifice one? Could we even see a situation where Phil Foden has to drop to the bench? You play Declan Rice, allowing Declan Rice a bit more of a free role, Jude Bellingham more advanced, and then you bring in an Adam Wharton, a Kobbie Mainoo, a Conor Gallagher seems to be Gareth Southgate's preferred option. But at least that gives Declan Rice the chance to do what he does for Arsenal, to be maraud onto the ball, which he's really good at. That means leaving Phil Foden out of the team, which seems crazy, but it's about getting the best team rather than trying to shoehorn the best 11 footballers onto the field. And then you've got the luxury of maybe playing somebody on the left wing who's more suited to the role, like an Anthony Gordon or something, which is what he's been doing for Newcastle all season. The nuclear option, which I've just been talking about over there,
Go on.
Well, Jude Bellingham, a lot of the season for Real Madrid, played in a kind of false 9 role.
Yeah.
Could you even drop England's captain, arguably best footballer, top goal scorer, and play Jude Bellingham with Phil Foden behind him, and then a couple of pacey wingers either side of Jude Bellingham as the false 9? I don't think we're going to see that. That doesn't sound like a Gareth Southgate kind of roll the dice kind of thing to do. Although he was very happy to hook Harry Kane with
which was
70
telling,
minutes
wasn't it?
gone yesterday, and Ollie Watkins obviously made an impact. But how do you get the best out of him? How do you get the best out of him? And how do you get the best out of him? The 3 best players is the big question mark now for Gareth Southgate.